Hello there, outliers. Niiamah Shang here, and thank you so much for letting me be a part of your journey. I say me, but I really mean us because I am here with Robert Kandell. Robert, thank you so much for saying yes to this year, for leaning into leading into like an unknown and continuing to bring that out here. I'm excited for the conversation we're going to have and where things go. So thanks for being you. Thanks for
My
being here.
pleasure. Good to be here.
Awesome. So, Robert, we're getting to know each other. I want to make sure outliers get the chance to do the same as well. Would you mind sharing with us a bit about you and how you show up as an outlier in your world?
I like the way to tell my story is that I was normal till I was 28. I had bought that American dream, laid out by my culture and mostly my father of what success meant to be a man. And so 28, I was living in San Francisco, had a 5-bedroom house, room for grandchildren, not really children, but grandchildren, the corporate job in Transamerica building, the six-figure salary, and I had made it um, on the outside. But what was on the inside wasn't doing as well. I was overweight. I had kind of lost my sense of purpose. I was working, 12 to 14-hour days in corporate America. I was married to someone I barely spent any time with. And so there was a lot of dis-ease, a lot of illness in my system, even though it looked really good from the outside. Then I went to Burning Man in 1998 and everything kind of went poof. Burning Man is a festival in the desert that's been going on, I think, about 20, 25 years at this point. And in that experience, I saw that there was so much more to life that I wasn't living. There was so much more to me that I didn't know yet. And so my career took a very strange turn. I ended up starting a business in 2004 um, that taught about relationships, intimacy, communication, and sexuality. Built that from a paper napkin sketch to an international 8-figure business. Uh, did everything CFO, CTO, COO, bottle washer, took out the trash, the whole aspect of it. Loved it. And then also got fried. So by the end of 2014, ended up in Venice Beach, California, with sold my shares, had runway, and then created this last phase of my life, this recent phase of my life, which was half thought leader. The goal was to get on Tony Robbins' stage, and half fractional CFO. The latter supporting the action of the prior. And I did the whole thought leader, noticed me, Facebook, wrote a book, had a podcast, did the whole thing for 5 years, and then eventually said, huh, I don't really ever want to do this again. I don't ever want to have to promote myself like this. I felt again how I was out of alignment with myself. So at 50, I switched again and really focused on my fractional CFO work. And I've been doing that for about 4.5 years now, full time, and have blessed with amazing clients, blessed with building a program called Your Financial Forecast, and really enabling to help businesses not only with numbers, but also this mindset and communication and self-worth and all these nagging things that hit entrepreneurs. And so it's been this really fascinating, amazing career from corporate America to where I do every day what I love.
Thanks for bringing that in, Robert. I think I like to slow down a little bit in certain parts of your journey because it feels like you've been able to take on a lot, right? You said 2004 is when you got into business. 2014 is when you sold it, and you sold your shares in it, and by that time you're an international 8-figure business, and then you went and changed it up and realized that the thing that you were doing that was different wasn't quite so different. If I'm getting that right.
Yep, yep,
And then you really found something that aligned with you. Am I getting like from a very high
spot
level
on.
from?
Yep,
Okay,
spot on.
all right. So if you're cool with it, I am actually really curious on my own side of things because
Sure.
I've told myself here that I'm like, all right, I'm in this game, right? And I've been trying to find like where's the right identity piece to go through things, right? And so for a number of years, I was looking at myself as I just want to be a 6-figure coach,
Right.
and recently it's become I want to be an 8-figure entrepreneur, right? And I'm like I haven't talked to someone who's been an 8-figure entrepreneur about this here, so I'm curious because it feels like you've shifted your identity a few different times. And I'm curious for you, like, what what do you feel are some of the elements that, how do I want to phrase this? as you think about the various parts of your journey
Mhm.
in there, what do you feel has shifted in your identity as well? Just so I can see, like, what are some of the distinctions about like how maybe you look at life or how you're approaching things at various stages in your journey?
Yeah, it's a big, complicated question, but I can give you some headlines and we can see what interests you.
Yeah, sounds good.
So the first was the first from corporate America to this business was a 3 or 4 year transition. And what truly happened is that I just found a different part of myself than what my dad had told me I should be. I was the kid that was an engineering student because I thought it would be a good job at the end of it. I was the kid who liked math and science, didn't know if he wanted to do that. And the societal pressure of when I grew up in 1970s and 80s, New York Jewish culture was very focused on this is the path. You do well in school, you do better in college, you go to grad school, maybe you get your first job, you get your second job, you get the third job, you get married, you produce children for grandchildren. There was this linear path that was pounded into me by my society. Now, it wasn't like they were bad people, it's just they didn't know anything different. And so at Burning Man at 28 was the first time I said, hold on a second. I had bought the whole thing, kit and caboodle. I was very good at it, but I was very unhappy inside of it. And so 6 figure, 8 figure title, vision, it's all on some level egoic. And I'm not saying egoic from a negative sense. I'm just saying it's based on ego. When you can slow down and see all of who you are and all of who you want to be, not just from ego, including the ego, but not just from ego, then you can make better integrated decisions for where you want to get to. And what I found is when you're in alignment with your inner self, then the 6 figure happens, the 8 figure business happens. But if you're not in alignment, then it's possible, but it's torture along the road.
I really appreciate this because as we're talking about, we're going to get into what you currently do now, but I think
Sure.
this part of like uh, I say we're going to get into like we're going to like into it, but if I'm getting you right, like this is what you do now. Like you're like yes, as people come and ask questions, but like you make sure that the mindset and the way that someone is approaching their business and such is actually in alignment. In addition to the external components about like the finance and the tax and so on and so forth. Am I getting that right? Firstly.
Yeah, back office finance is just a vehicle because for several reasons. One, I really am good at it.
Yeah.
Just my dad was an accountant, my grandfather was an accountant. I mean, numbers are just in my blood. And so it took me a while to get there, but I'm just good at the numbers. Um, the second thing I found is that most entrepreneurs and most people have a negative relationship with money. They have connotation, they can't save it, they don't want to confront it. They have charge with it, they hate it, they're jealous of other people with money. So, money in itself, the concept, the connotation of money is very confronting for most people. I've done the work deliberately over my 54 years and 25 years of personal development to have a pristine relationship with money. Now, not perfect, but just pristine. It's just clean. And from that, it's so much easier, one, to walk my own talk and make money and save money and do money wisely, but two, to work with people's charge from a value neutral place to be like, okay, it makes sense you're scared, or it makes sense you're worried. What is underneath that? And then for them to have a better way to dance with money through my help, which is just really fun and powerful for my clients.
So this is really interesting to me. Because as you're talking, I hear what you're saying. I'm actually asking myself in some places around it. The concept of a pristine relationship, pristine versus perfect, is something that I'm going to walk away with here, if you don't mind.
So of course,
Um,
it's yours.
yeah, I think there's something in there. But I hear is like you yourself got to that place so that now you have the capacity to be with anyone around it. Can you make this real here?
Sure.
let's see, like, can you give us an example of like maybe something that came up recently for you, or an example of like a client or some where it's like their relationship is off? I would love to just kind of give outliers an opportunity to just to hear a story around it, so that like in my mind, I'm like, I might be really unconscious to how like how not clean my relationship is, and a story might help me see that more clearly.
Yeah, of course. Thousands of stories. The one that's been coming up recently is I did a course called Money Magic. Money Magic is done by this incredible NLP practitioner named Michelle Masters. So I'm going to sell her course for a second. She has an online course and she has an in-person course and she has a book. And she's not a dear friend, but a dear acquaintance of mine. And I took this course maybe 7 years ago in Northern California. Before I went to that course, I had challenges with money. I was making mistakes. I was getting into relationships that weren't healthy. My trauma was informing my decisions, was having me be less efficient and wasteful with money, putting me in debt. And so I don't want to paint this picture like it's always been pristine. It's not. It's been this crazy journey, and we can go into more details about it. But I was with my wife and we were having a conversation, and she basically said, she didn't say this, but this is what I heard in my head. She's like, "Why do you suck with money? Like you're good at everything else. You're good at people, you're good at business, you're good at selling. Why don't we have the finances?" Now, she was a lot more polite, but in my head, because I was calling myself out, that's why I heard, "Why do you suck?" Or why, what is the next level? About 6 months later, I went to this course with Michelle Masters. And for those with NLP, no NLP, neuro linguistic programming, may have an opinion about it. And it has been used for evil, which is a whole other conversation. But this group in Northern California called Marine NLP, Carl and his crew, Michelle was part of it at the time, are really amazing practitioners and really with a lot of integrity. Anyway, in this course, they do this one exercise, and you sit in one chair, and then there's another chair in front of you, and then there's a chair to the right. And Michelle says, okay, look at that chair and imagine money, and then imagine who's superimposed either behind or on top of money. What do you identify money with? And I was like, Dad, Jewish father, demanding, a lot of stuff on money. And I was like, Dad. And I was like, because the concept is that I was intermingling my relationship with my dad with money. And so, can I curse on this? Can I swear word?
Yeah, this
Uh,
whole thing's about being you, so
Okay,
please
great.
be you.
So my fuck you to my dad, and there were plenty, was fuck you to money. All my angst with my dad was intertwined. And in the exercise, which took 15 or 20 minutes, she's like, just separate dad from money and put the money in the other chair. And so it's woo woo, but I actually saw it separate. I saw my dad sitting there and I just saw this big pile of money in this other chair and says, okay, now turn to money and have a conversation about how you want to relate to it. Very value neutral, optimistic, happy. Turn to your dad, relationship, like I wanted this, okay, back to money. Wow, it'd be really fun if we had more time together so I could buy more things. And anyway, 15, 20 minutes, left the exercise. And it wasn't like it with a snap of a finger, everything changed, but I was able to see the pristine relationship of separating the two and just start to have what I call a value neutral relationship with money. And then from that, I was able to make more conscious decisions to go from point A to point B. And here I am 7 years later, 6 years later, with more income than ever expected, a better lifestyle than ever expected, and more fun. And it's continually tweaking, but it started off with me separating father from cash.
So I am glad that we got into this here. Um, One of the things that you brought up the word generous earlier here, but one of like I enjoy your generosity
Mm,
in making sure that outliers know, like, hey, this is the source, this is the who, like, this is a group of people who are doing it right.
yeah.
One thing I just want to say, I really respect that. One, two, the component of decoupling. And thanks for walking us through the exercise. There's some components of this where I'm like, I would love to see how this would play out. And I'm sure that
Yeah.
there's additional elements involved in terms of the environment and so on and so forth. But I'm like, even if we can get like 10% of that to at least see who, like, where the image was,
Yeah.
like there's a process that can take place. Maybe it'll take us longer than 10 to 15 minutes outside of that environment, but like you really planted some great seeds. So I'm appreciative of that. I think that it's an interesting thing with like the conflating two components together,
Mm.
and I'm curious in this conversation, we'll probably stay with money, but I want to bring it out to you outliers. Like, let's play this on the money element. And then if there's another place where you're also feeling something that is out of whack, I feel like this exercise can really do well to help continue to decouple. So, Robert, your journey took you to the place where you then said, okay, I want to be on Tony Robbins stage, and like, like I'm going to go build myself into something, right? From a personal brand perspective. You had the business brand. Now you're like, I want to
Yep.
do more personal branding, right? A lot of us in this space here are building our personal brand. So I would love to walk through. Let me see. What's the question I'd love to have here? I think I'm really curious about the cost, like because you kept making changes where it on one end it's like you got it, you have the thing that we're all working toward, and we all being like in different areas, and then you're like, nope, it's not that, right? So let's start off here with the cost that you found while you were pursuing this. Do you mind talking about like both the visible cost, but also
Sure.
the hidden cost? I think there's
Yeah.
something in there that you can really touch on.
Yeah. The eight-figure international business, I was I was big man on campus. I was the BMOC. I was the nerdy fat kid in high school that didn't get any attention from the cheerleaders. And then from that place, from that drive, 18 to 44, so whatever years that 26 years, and 2014, before I left my business, I was the big man on campus. I had friends, I had women chasing after me. I was able to teach 3 to 4 weekends a month. I was coaching. I was at the top of that. And I loved that part of it. It was just beautiful. But the cost was that the business had taken a turn away from my personal integrity. We went from a service organization serving the world into a sales organization selling. Now, the service side was not paying the bills. So, from a business perspective, moving to sales, more sales, or sales organization was the right choice because the business was not going to survive. And I didn't have a better recommendation. But the way we were selling, the way we were acting, the way we were treating our students was against my personal integrity. And so I decided a year before I actually left that I was going to go. And I planned my exit strategy. And that last year was torture because I didn't tell anyone that I was planning to go. No confidants, family, no one knew. I kept my own confidence. And then when the time was right, I was very gracious with my business partner. I got to pull the pin and get out. But it was negatively impacting me both emotionally and physically in the form of starting to form an ulcer, incredible acid reflux, popping Tums left and right to sustain, not sleeping well. So there was an emotional impact, there was a physical impact, and I just knew that I could not continue, and I felt really lucky to get out. But then I ended up in Venice Beach, California, in an empty, beautiful house on Venice Beach Boulevard, and with not knowing who I was anymore. Yes, I had runway. I was very lucky to have money, so I had time to heal. I had time to work with a somatic therapist to work on my PTSD and trauma. I was very blessed to have all those things. But man, I was lost. I was so lost, I didn't know how lost I was. And it really took me on some level close to 3 years to regain my footing, to know who Rob Kandell was, without that community. So I'll stop there and I can tell you a second story if you want.
Yeah, normally I would have a question right now, but right now I'm in the story with you. I feel like we're in the middle. So keep going,
Okay.
and then I'll bring out some questions from there.
Okay. So that was from, business to starting my thought leader CFO business in 2014. So the thought leader was, not that I knew at the time, was really based on ego. Again, I wanted to contain to be the big man on campus. I wanted the adulation of the crowd. I wanted to be a peer of Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins almost bought our company. I don't know how close it was, but we were in conversations, we were in negotiations. I got to go to Business Mastery in 2014, and he poked me on the chest and just said, "What are you gonna do?" In his Tony Robbins way. And I got to go and have dinner with him, and so I got the opportunity to meet him, and I was like, oh, I was so in love with the idea. And so I did the whole thing. I wrote the book. I did the podcast. I spent $50,000 on the website. I had an assistant. I had a podcast agent paying $300 to get on shows and blah, blah, blah. 150,000 in marketing, $200,000 with the book. I don't know the number to get on that stage. Luckily, the business services was paying for it, so it was okay. And then I published the book, and then I was like 6 months later when I was trying to promote, and I took the time to slow down enough and really take stock. And the inventory was that, again, I put myself in a position that I was out of integrity. I hated the social media marketing. I was tired of the podcast interviews. I was tired of doing my own podcast. I was tired of the whole notice me, Facebook like, Instagram like. I was tired of that whole thing. And I just quit. I closed up my clients and the podcast with integrity, but I just stopped. Took about a year. And this was a lot easier transition because I was doing what I loved, which was the business consulting. So less cost beyond the $200,000 that basically netted me. The ROI in that's I probably made $100,000 on the 200,000 I invested, maybe more with coaching. It's hard, I could get those exact numbers, but let's call it a 50% ROI. Not a good ROI, but I'm so glad I did it, because whatever itch I had that started that process totally got scratched to the point where there's zero regrets of ever changing direction.
So let me slow down with you here. Um, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for these stories that you're sharing right now. Thanks for living your life and
Mm,
then choosing to come and share it out loud. Um, some of the things that are. Do you mind if I just reflect back real quick and
sure.
some of the things that I'm getting from this year? And some of
Yeah.
this is personal with where I'm at right now. But one of them was just like when you talked about quitting, both times you ended up leaving like and transitioning out. Um, what one of the things that's striking me that I think I'm going to keep walking away from here is that like the amount of time it took, right? It was like to really uncouple yourself from it and do it in a way that was in integrity. You're like, yeah, it took me about a year. I started up this thing, revved this whole thing up here, did it in like I think it was like a three to 5 year period of time, and by like took a year, one third of that time was just getting out of it.
Yeah.
And so there's a component of this that actually, like when I really think about it, it's messing with my head, to be honest,
Mm,
right? Because there are times where I feel time scarcity. I'm like, oh, I want to get the results faster. I'll just do this faster, 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 faster. There's a lot that I need to learn. Let me go learn it, so on and so forth. And like, I'd rather learn it as quickly as I can. And what's really striking me is there's a question in my mind like, if it takes this long to get out, how long does it take to actually like ramp it all in, ramp it all up? So like, uh, I'm curious for you. The question I have for you is you can talk directly about like the ramp in, ramp out period, but I think the underlying part is like any lessons or any like things you can share about just your relationship with time and how long things take. Because I think that's the underlying part of it in order to like be in integrity. how long it actually takes to do things well.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really have time scarcity in my life. I'm sure at times in my life I have. But what is time scarcity? Time scarcity is someone, is me. How to say it's me? It's me comparing what's happening to what I think should be happening, which is as much fantasy and unrealistic as I want. I'm taking myself out of present time. And I'm measuring myself against a ruler or a guide or a path that's purely of my imagination. There's nothing written that I've ever seen or know about that says this is the path and this is what Robert Kandell should have happened. My dad, wanted me to have X amount of dollars in retirements, and he wanted 4 grandchildren and blah blah blah. But that's not it. Any comparison to what should be takes you out of the present, takes you out of your being right here, right now, and compares it to your imagination of what you should be. Now, your imagination can propel you. Like, I've always had a thing with pull-ups. I've always wanted to be able to do 20 pull-ups. I don't think I'm ever going to do 20 pull-ups in my life. I'm just not that kind of body type. But that's propelled me to do 5 or 6 straight set. So that's my imagination of being able to do 20 pull-ups. So that's something that, inspires us. A great book, a great TV show, a great friend, a great teacher can propel you. But just as quickly, your imagination can squash you. And I would venture to say that most of society is more squashing than inspiring. You're too fat, you're too slow, you're not smart enough, you don't have enough money. This society of disapproval, why is your brother doing better? And like all the comparison stuff. She's sexier. She looks better in yoga pants than me. Why is my butt too big? Blah blah. All that mental masturbation, garbage of uh, diminishment that our imagination throws on us. To me, that's detrimental. So how do you have the sobriety and the discipline of mind to push away the negative thoughts? To inspire you to go from point A to point B in a realistic but grounded, optimistic way so you can have the success you want. That's how I live my life.
And I can feel a sense of freedom that with that there as well, right? There's and if I'm getting you and you've been upfront about this here, it's like that may not have been how things were for you for a long
Oh,
period of time.
no, no, no.
Yeah,
I'm blessed to be 54 and
yeah.
have 54 years of road to get to this point.
Yeah, yeah, no, like if you don't mind, like everyone's, I'm like, oh, you've seen it. You get time to some extent, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
And and I like to play that out a bit because you talked about like the health concerns you had when you were transitioning out of your first
company.
organization, yeah,
Yeah.
your company. Um, so take us to now, all right? So you came through, you found like, all right, I'm doing this work. I'm putting it like I'm investing. I'm on paper, it all looks good, but like this is not it,
Yeah.
right? And you brought yourself to fractional CFO.
Mhm.
With that component here, what the word joy just came to my mind, right? Like joy, fulfillment. It feels like there's a simplicity to this here that I'd love for you to speak on. There's some element. I think part of what's showing up for me around is like as time has gone on, I've been finding like I wanted to do epic things. And as
Mhm.
time has gone on, I've been kind of looking at like epicness as just being like, can you live in integrity? Can you do the things you said you were going to do? Like if you just do that in a lot of different ways, like that is quite epic because most people don't, that doesn't happen, with as much regularity. And so right now you brought in what feels simple right now. And I would love for you to like just speak a little bit about that, about your choice to that, and honestly going from like big man on campus, still doing like the book and everything, and then coming to this part. Not saying that it's not epic in its own way, but I just feel like you have a different relationship with it. I'd love to hear more about it.
Yeah. I made a decision somewhere in the last transition from thought leader to fractional CFO. Let's just use those titles for simplicity.
Okay.
That I had two goals in my business, and really only two goals. The number one is I wanted to provide for my family. My wife has a big appetite. She likes nice things and she likes to spend a lot of money. That woman has massive skills in spending, and I love it because I've noticed the more she spends, the more money I make. There is a direct ratio of her appetite and my thrill in providing. So I have a healthy partnership with my partner because we've worked it out. And then she's also like, can we do this? I'm like, well, no, not yet. Like she wanted to do Awesomeness Fest, A Fest. I don't know if you know this, Mind Valley's Awesomeness Fest.
Okay.
It's a crazy thing in Ibiza. It was a $25,000 investment. And I just said, no, can't do it now because of X, Y, and Z. And it turned out to be the wise choice. And she was like, oh, okay, next year. That's kind of who she is. So I really want to paint the picture is her appetite propels me, but at the same time, when it doesn't happen, it doesn't torture me. So that was the first thing. I want to provide for my family. The second thing is I want to be entertained. That is the second most important part of my business. Now, entertain kind of has a diminishment to it, right? But it's not because I love when my brain is motivated and I love when I'm pushed. I love when I'm given something by a client that they have no idea how to do. I'm like, okay, give me a day and let me hack it. Let me code it. I'm very good with Google Sheets and Excel sheets. I can pull money and data, information to solve problems. I love the challenges of that. And I love, translating Excel into English into Excel or chaotic systems into order. It's so much fun for me. So that's the one side of it. The second side is I've walked away from six-figure gigs because I was no longer entertained by my working in the company. I had a great friend, six-figure, perfect business for me, and I felt he was out of integrity. I wasn't like the way he was acting. And I said, thank you, I got to go, basically. And do I miss that business? A little bit. Do I regret that choice? Not for a second. So, what I'm really saying is the simplicity is to know truly what you need from your life and your business so you can attach to it. I really recommend journaling, writing, typing, vision boards, imagining, like get that creative juices out and then codify it, write it down. And then my business is based around taking those ideas and building a business forecast. So you can take these ideas and see if they provide what you need from the family. It's very hard to figure out what you need unless you're willing to do a business model to make sure it can provide for you. So that's a pitch for my program, but that's also my belief is that, and model doesn't have to be complicated. I don't have to use my model, but just say if I need to make $5,000 a month take home, and that's $60,000 a year, and it costs me 4x to do to make that, that means I need to make $240,000, et cetera, et cetera. And how am I going to make $240,000? Those are the kind of equations and things to ask constantly. Keep working on your plan, and then once you can imagine it, the chances of it happening increases exponentially.
I'm glad that we went there because I had a retirement actuarial consultant background, and so like I do enjoy me some Excel. I don't bring it out all that often anymore,
Yeah.
but it's one of the things that I felt like I missed earlier in my entrepreneurial career, where I'm like I'm no longer this. I don't want anyone to even know that I use Excel, for example, right? And with that, going back to like some of the relationship with money and things like that. I'm like, I don't want to know anything with numbers. I'll just kind of, if I'm doing good work, good things will come in, kind of so
Yeah.
on and so forth. It's kind of just being a little like oblivious to what was actually taking place. My daughter, my second child, is one of the first times I really felt like I woke up to like the reality of
Mm.
what I was creating.
Yeah.
or not created. And so we're about to start wrapping up here. We got to a place where the numbers uh, have come into place and the reality that's behind it and working your way towards it. This feels really important. Do you mind speaking to, and I know you have uh, your financial forecast, like the community, so people can go and spend more time in that space with you and get like both answers to things and also work through some of the things we were just talking about. But what would you say if someone was listening to this and realized, like, wait a minute, like if I had to forecast, just even just from this conversation, if I had to forecast this, I'm like, I'm on a path that doesn't line up for me. And then if I get into like the business, like the money side of it, that doesn't line up either. What would you say to like someone that just take like their first step to be able to make whatever that vision is that they're seeing more tangible, more real, and be able to forecast towards it?
Yeah. There's a lot of great books out there. There's a lot of great systems out there. There's hundreds of free forecasts out there. You can just, you know, Google financial forecasts, and I'm sure there's some Excel templates. And, I've looked at a few, and so there's definitely out there for free. So if you can't afford anything at this point, just Google and get a Google sheet and start to work on a business template. What I built was something called Your Financial Forecast. And I took my 25 years of working and running businesses and built a forecast in Google Sheets that enables you to truly put all aspects of your business in a pretty easy manner to fill out your form. And then I built a video course that shows you step by step how to do it. And so the forecast is really designed, okay, I just want to see how much money I can make. Well, you can just do that part. Okay, I want to start adding my COGS, my cost of service, what it takes to produce that income. I want to add my expenses. I want to add a team. Like I want to see what it's going to take to go from 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, a million. It's really designed to build you a 5-year forecast and show you how to do it. So that's my 150 buck download. It's yours. Copy it as many times as you want. Program, and then you get access to the video course. That's yourff.io. That's the website. But I didn't want to just do that because I think the problem is most people don't finish these things. They don't even start. And so I built the community, the YFF community, just to encourage and have a place where people can talk about the all challenging aspects of back office, financial, insurance, tax, HR, legal, and to have a place to come, office hours and a board, so entrepreneurs can feel supported. I think motherhood is the hardest job in the world. I think fatherhood is second, and I think being an entrepreneur is third. I think it's challenging for all the things we talked about today. So the YFF community is 77 bucks a month. I wanted people to have skin in the game, but not be too expensive. And just a place so you can be seen and recognized and have your questions asked on office hours and guest stars and free downloads and a board. And if you don't want to buy the product, the downboard, you can just do the community at yourff.io/community. And that's a sales page for that.
Well, thank you, Rob. I think there's a lot of wisdom that was shared. I appreciate your experience and yeah, and when I say experiences, I really do feel like you've gone through life and given yourself a chance to have some real experiences through it, right?
Yeah,
Some highs, lows, some and some heroes' journeys over and over again.
indeed.
You've given us a lot and outlines. I'll say if there's anything in this conversation that has really struck you, or someone that you feel like would really be moved by any part of the conversation we've had so far, please take the time to just like let them know about this episode and
Sure.
just make sure we pass that along. Um, Rob, last question for you. And at this point, I feel like outliers they've gotten what they've gotten what they've gotten from here.
Mm.
I love to have conversations that I get curious about what insights or things that you learned through this conversation. Um, yeah, what they might be, and it might be like you didn't have any insights, and that's okay too. But you shared with us how we can continue down with you. Do you mind sharing with us like an insight that you got from this conversation?
I think there was a really strong reminder of self-compassion. I often don't think about that. even though I know I practice it,
Mm.
to be compassionate with yourself. We are so harsh on ourselves. And I think this conversation really reminded me just to be like, if you're living and efforting, you're heading in the right direction.
Mm.
You may not be heading in the right direction, but by just living and moving and accepting and investigating, that's the direction of life. And we're so hard on ourselves and we have so many voices in our head, and just a constant reminder to self to be gentle, to know you're doing it right. You know you can do it better. And tomorrow's another day.
Well, thank you for spending this day with us here. Thank you for building what you've built in space with you, and I look forward to everything that comes out from here. Until we next time we talk, remember this, outliers: be you on purpose. Journey on.
Thank you.